So for those of you that are just joining us in session 2, I'm Sarah Pace. I'm one of the school counselors here at Radnor, and I'm joined by Jim Van Blunk, one of the admissions counselors at Temple, and he is going to be talking to us now about some essay writing tips, which I think is probably one of the harder parts of the application that you're going to end up doing next year. So I will turn it over to Jim, and if we hold questions, we can kind of do questions through the chat feature at the end of the session if there's time for that. So I will turn it over to you, Jim.
All right, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out. For those of you who are in the first session and stayed, my apology. No, just kidding. You have to listen to me again for 2 of the 3 sessions, so sorry about that. So I want to talk a little bit about the essay, and I think I do have sort of, again, a handout that I would normally have got you guys, but we're not in person, but it keeps me sort of grounded. That's the recruitment process. That's what I just did. All right, here we go. Can you guys all kind of see that, I hope? All right, this is just to keep me sort of organized and all the way. So first thing to think about is, as you're thinking about writing an essay, remember that it's one of just many things that a committee is going to review. So I think a lot of times kids really, really freak out and they think that it's not important, but just remember, it's just one of many things that a committee will review. Most likely, the academic piece is going to be first, so they're going to be way more interested in your academic profile, so the courses that you've taken, how well you've done, those kinds of things, before they get to the essay, in most cases, as far as the order of importance goes. I will say that when I read an application, I actually start with the essay. I mean, I have to get through some of the biographical information that students fill out in the Common App, but I like to get to the essay first because I don't want to get biased by that academic record just yet. I want to see what the student is able to tell me about themselves in the essay. And it's especially important because at a large public school like a Temple or like a Penn State or like a Pitt or a Rutgers or whatever, we don't have the opportunity to interview students, right? So there's only a certain number of opportunities that a student's going to get to kind of personalize the process, and the essay is definitely one of them. So I think that's what makes it important at a big school. It's the fact that we get to know a little bit more about you that we wouldn't normally get to know about you in the rest of the application. So I think that's really, really important. The biggest advice that I can give to students at the very beginning is to write in your voice. And this may sound bad, but like, if you're not funny, please don't try to be funny in your college essay, right? Like, be yourself, be true to yourself. Write your essay and certainly get people to help you sort of edit it, but please don't jump in. And parents, this is so hard. I have twins who are almost going to graduate. They have a semester left in school, so I'm very, very excited. College, that is. And it was really hard to stay away. In fact, because I work in admissions and they did apply to Temple, I did read their essays. And I almost had a heart attack with the first one, and just the way she sort of worded certain things. I would have done it different, but she didn't ask me and I didn't help. And I say this because we can tell, like, there are times when I'm reading an essay and the first 2 paragraphs sound, pretty good. And then there's this paragraph that doesn't sound like the rest. And that's when I know that mom or dad intervened and rewrote that paragraph, and it just doesn't fit in. So yes, certainly help them, parents, but make sure that it's their voice. So picture an admissions person for point number 3. Picture an admissions person going to work, or here at home and every day, and opening up their laptop and reading applications for 8 to 10 hours a day. So we're going to read a lot of essays in a day. We kind of like to be entertained. So if you're a good storyteller, that can help you a tremendous amount as you think about what you want to write for your essay. It's always good to write about things that you have a passion for, right? Because that essay will come easier to you. It's something that you truly love or love to do, or had a great experience with. So that can be important. If you can tell us a story about, a family outing or something where you really learned a lot, or maybe something that really changed your perspective on something. And now you have a deeper, understanding of a subject, or you understand something a little differently than you did before. Anything that's sort of changed you in a major way, that's good for us to hear. It could be about anything. It could be about, a meal that your grandma makes that's just so great and traditional, and you've finally seen the light about how important a family is. Things like that go a long way. Don't repeat what we already know. So if you've already told us something in the application, the essay should really go in a different direction. The essay should give us information that we wouldn't normally get from you. And again, in the rest, especially at a large public where you're not going to get that opportunity to kind of interview and do some other things. Follow the instructions. If we ask for a specific topic, then please make sure that that topic kind of works its way into your essay at some point, right? And there can be a lot of different topics. I know my friend Jody is one of the presenters tonight from Penn. And when I first started working in admissions a really long time ago, I remember Penn's essay topic was, you've just written your autobiography. Please, please give us page 105. Right? So it could be something as creative as that. It could be something like, a lot of schools ask questions about you coming back to speak at graduation 10 years after you graduated. So what have you been doing? Things like that. What I will say is, you don't have to butter us up. You don't have to write about how much you love Temple when you're writing your essay for Temple, right? We get it. You're spending all this time on the Common App. You're gonna pay an application fee. You're gonna fill out a self-report. You're gonna do all this stuff for us. So we understand that you're really interested. You don't have to say that in the essay. Use the essay to talk about yourself. And I know it's really, really hard sometimes for you to do that, but it's really, really important. This is the time for you to kind of come out of your shell and talk a little bit about some experiences that you've had that have really shaped, the person that you are or that you're becoming. I think they're really, really important. The other really good reason not to write about why you want to attend a certain school is because we have, in many occasions, gotten the wrong essay. So I work at Temple. If I get an essay from someone who tells me how much they want to go to Penn State, then I will have to come to Radnor and find you. And it will not be a happy conversation, right? So don't do that. It happens more often than you know. An easy fix is to just not write about why you want to go to a particular school, unless they ask you that. Some schools will ask you that. Generally speaking, my experience has been that the more selective the institution is for admission, the more important the essay can become, because it's really truly going to be a very holistic review process, and they're going to spend a lot of time on everything. And so the essay can really, really be beneficial in that regard. It shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't be too short. I know that's really ambiguous, but again, at large publics or even really highly selective institutions that are getting thousands and thousands of applications every day, I don't want a 10-page essay. You know, if you write a 10-page essay, like we're just not friends anymore, you know, like I have to go through it and I'll read every page of it, but it's really important that you are able to narrow down the length of your, and some have limits on the length of the essay that you are expected to turn in for them. Okay, so make sure you do those things, follow it up. You don't have to butter us up. It's really hard because I know it's really, really stressful. You need to take a really deep breath and try to have some fun with it. What is it that you would like us to know about you that we kind of don't know, that we don't know now? And there's a lot of topics out there. You could Google college essay topics and spend probably a good portion of the day going through some of those opportunities and suggestions. But just know the most important thing is that we want it to be in your voice. So we want you to tell your story. We'd like to know more about you than we did in the beginning. And we want to know sort of kind of what kind of person you think that you're becoming, or that what experience did you have that really, really changed your thinking on something. And it could be, you know, people talk about their service opportunities or service trips, either overseas or domestically. Sometimes people talk about, you know, their first experience in maybe working at a soup kitchen in the city, you know, especially around Thanksgiving time. I know it was hard with the pandemic to do a lot of those things this year, but things like that have kind of stood out. I will tell you, just so you feel good, you could never write the worst essay I've ever read. Like, it can't happen, because here it is. 3 words. Please accept me. EXCEPT. Okay, do you feel better now? You definitely beat that for sure, right? Without even thinking, you'll beat that. And you guys have really great teachers and really great counselors, and you're in a really great school district that really helps to prepare you well. So I know that they're going to help you kind of along the way and do that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and go back to specific questions that you might have about topics or about things like that. I didn't want to talk too long, but I wanted to make sure I covered kind of the things that typically stand out for us, you know. Remember that the audience that you're speaking to is an admissions committee or an admissions person. Most likely they're the person that visits either virtually or in person eventually Radnor. So they're going to be sort of your counselor. Please make sure you know who they are and really make sure they know who you are. It's totally okay to send them emails if you have questions about things. It's a really good idea, right? I said at a big public school, it's hard to personalize the process. Other than the essay, getting to know your admission counselor is really another way to personalize the process, because in a lot of cases, that person is going to shepherd your application through their process. So if you need an advocate on the inside, it's your admission counselor, right? So get to know them. I'll tell you a funny story and then I promise I'll answer questions. So at one point in my career, I was the director of undergrad admissions at Villanova, and we had a pretty extensive wait list. And this young lady from North Jersey, she was on the wait list, she got waitlisted. She emailed me every single day. And on Friday, she said, Mr. Van Blunk, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday. And sure enough, when I got to the office on Monday, there was an email from this young lady. And she said, Mr. Van Blunk, I hope you had a great weekend. I'm still interested in Villanova. And so for the, I don't know, 2.5 weeks that we were contemplating what we were going to do with the wait list, you can rest assured that when we went to the wait list, she was taken off it, right? So I'm not saying do that, but I'm also saying it can hurt, right? In a lot of cases, especially now, there are more really selective schools who are tracking and evaluating demonstrated interest, right? That's become a new thing. It's not, we track it at Temple, but we don't really use it in the evaluation process, but a lot of schools do. A lot of schools do. and I don't ever want to speak for other schools, but I know, for example, Lehigh is very big on demonstrated interest. So it's really important that you get to know that admissions person, and they can help you in the process as well. Okay, questions? Other questions in the chat?
Yeah, one question that came up was, are there overdone topics you've seen too often and don't want to see again?
Okay, so I was an athlete in high school and college and professionally. I don't ever want to read another essay that says, I had the ball in my hand and there were 2 seconds left on the clock, and this is what happened, right? I just don't, like, and remember, there are going to be a lot of people on the admissions committee that aren't athletes at all and really couldn't care less what you do with the basketball or the football in the last minute of play, right? So I think they're ones that get beat to death. No, I think if you're telling your story, then that's fine, and there's going to be a lot of somewhat similar stories. So I think other than that, they're kind of the ones, you know, that I don't like our topic. I think I'm sure we did away with it this year of you've been invited to speak at, you know, graduation. You've been out for 10 years. What have you done? Because everybody is like the CEO of their company, or, you know, they're the general manager, the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies, the Union, and they all attribute it to Temple, which is wonderful. But like, nobody is creative. Not too many people are creative with that. So again, I think if you stick to kind of the things that you love to do, that you know well, and that you love, again, the things that you're passionate about, and it could be sports, but just don't write it in that way. You know, think of a new way to tell us how you impacted the ending of a contest. But I think that's what I would say about that.
Another question, speaking of COVID, are admissions committees making any special concessions for students who may not be able to volunteer, etc.?
Absolutely. Yeah, we completely understand. The three big things were adjusting even to online learning. Some kids do it well and some kids don't. So we've sort of taken last spring's grades, this fall's grades with a grain of salt as well. You know, we want to see an honest effort, but we are much more lenient on those kinds of things. Same with activities. We understand, like, no one's been able to, you know, participate in an activity, the theater, anything, musical group, like, it's really hard. So we totally understand that. And, you know, for the most part, neither can our students. You know, they can't participate in a production or in the marching band or a lot of other things that we would have. So I think without question, we're very aware of the situation. Yeah.
If there are other
What else?
questions, feel free to put them in the chat. How much will SAT score factor into admissions?
Well, if your child was lucky enough to find a place to take the test that wasn't canceled 4 times, and you didn't have to fly to Atlanta to take a test. A lot of colleges this year went test optional because of this. And I know I'm speaking generally, but I just can't help myself. I have to pat Temple on the back. Temple's been test optional for 6 years. We truly believe that there are other ways to evaluate a student besides test scores. So, and before COVID, there were over 550 colleges in the United States that were already test optional. So I think in this case, we understand some schools are still going to expect test scores and some people aren't. Some people are saying, well, we're test optional, but if you can get us a score, right? So you need to, again, that's where your relationship with your admissions counselor can really come in, and they can give you some good guidance. As for Temple, as I said, we've been test optional for 6 years. Over 9,000 students last year applied without test scores. They were admitted. They were offered merit scholarships, and they were offered entrance to our honors program at the same rate as those students who sent us test scores. So for us, it's not a big thing. If you send them, we'll use them. If you don't, we won't. And you'll get that opportunity to tell us that in the on the Common App. You'll actually choose for Temple. But I think in general, a lot of schools are being very understanding again about test scores, because they realize how difficult it's been for your students to be able to get a testing.
Okay, 2 other questions.
Sure.
I've heard be careful of writing about someone who inspired you, because the essay can become about that other person and not the writer, him or herself. Any thoughts on that particular topic?
Yeah, no, that can be true. We like to say that as much as we love Grandmom, Grandmom's not applying to Temple. So how can this be turned around and be about how Grandmom inspired you, but it's still you, the applicant, that was impacted by that? So I think there's some truth to that, but again, you know, it's possible to be able to talk about someone that's inspired you and still have you as the primary subject matter.
And one other, it's if you have already shown a lot of commitment to an extracurricular that you are heavily involved in the extracurricular section of the application, would it be helpful to mention it again in the essay or write about something new?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's okay to mention it again. I just don't think the entire essay should be a duplicate of what you put in that section of the application. You know, again, it could be that particular extracurricular activity taught you a lot of valuable lessons that you have taken into other areas of your life. You know, a lot of athletes talk about that. You know, the fact that teamwork and being a part of a team has helped them to be more focused and, you know, academically aware, has made them a better student. So things that you can take those experiences and tie them into a bigger thing.
And I think we have time for maybe one more. If I'm unable to volunteer because of COVID, what else can I do to add to my application?
I think, I mean, it's hard, I think, because we're all kind of in this together. I think, again, schools are going to understand why you're not being able to volunteer. I think they're going to understand why you weren't able to be involved in certain extracurriculars that you normally are. And so, I mean, as best you can, you need to fully, you know, direct your attention to the academic area, you know, so kind of really focusing on your schoolwork, as hard as it is to do virtually. I think that's what you have left, is that, and that's what you can control at this point, is how well you do in certain subjects. So I would say if you're going to divert your attention to other areas, then make sure you're diverting it onto the academic side.